Now, this tidbit is directed more towards the young women who are thinking about going into physical therapy, because the profession of physical therapy still remains to have about a 2-to-1 ratio of women over men. And I'm going to give some advice on why you should not apply to physical therapy school, especially if you're a young female student in college, or considering it even in your last year of your senior year of high school. Now, first of all, I don't recommend anyone applying to physical therapy school because of the amount of debt you have to have. Now, technically, on paper, as I've said many times, it is a quote doctorate, and the APTA would like to lure potential students in because they're going to see a shortage of therapists in the very near future by telling them this is a graduate program, a doctorate program, when you don't do one single thing that a graduate student actually does. And I have a whole video on that topic, ranging from the graduate student thesis versus your thesis and every other point of graduate school that the physical therapy student just simply doesn't complete. It was a stupid idea that the APTA was pushing decades ago, pushing it because they wanted direct access globally for the whole profession, and they did not get that. The only thing they did accomplish was getting every graduate about $130,000 to $150,000 in debt, which will be about $250,000 by the time it's all said and done with the interest, for an entry-level program to practice physical therapy where the average starting salary is somewhere between $65,000 to $75,000 a year, I believe. Would I have applied to physical therapy school back in 1996 if I had known this sort of debt was coming to me? Absolutely not. I would have found something else in the medical field, PA, chiropractic medicine. I would have completely seen the illogic of spending 7 years to get an entry-level degree with no added compensation for that degree. Sometimes you have to put being strategically smart in front of what you actually want to do in life, because what you want to do may set you up for future catastrophe. And look on the forums, there are many that are regretting this decision to go to physical therapy school. Many are unsatisfied with their careers and can't get out because of that massive debt. But this is even more so especially true for the ladies that are considering entering this field. I'm going to give 2 case examples of 2 students who were shadowing me, deciding whether they are going to go to physical therapy school or not. They were both approximately the same age, 20, 21 years old. One of them spent the summer with me, really had an interest in the field, but I gave her my lecture about the return of investment on a degree that's going to get you approximately $130,000 to $150,000 in debt by the time you graduate. She actually listened to me. And I also told her, go to other clinics on the West Coast, which is where she was going to school, and you will see all the overlapping of patients. You will see the continuous chronic pain patient that keeps returning over and over again, and do a very objective analysis of whether this is what you want to be involved in for this amount of debt. Told her point blank. I said, don't take my word for it. Go to 3 or 4 other clinics, get your shadowing hours, which you need to get in anyway if you're going to apply to PT school, and then decide if this is what you want to do for the rest of your life, knowing you can't escape because of that severe debt. About 6 months later, she emailed me and said, you are absolutely right. I want to be involved with people who actually want to get better. And she saw that the majority of patients who kept coming back over and over again in the clinics that she was shadowing were not interested in their own health. And she also saw the physical therapists who were absolutely blind that their profession was becoming such a ruse. She decided to get her degree in athletic training and eventually got a master's in it. And now she's very happy working in the high schools and the athletic departments where the people do want to excel. Her job satisfaction is through the roof. No, she's not making as much money as a physical therapist, but she's not starving either, and she's got a master's in the athletic training field. She did have some student loans, but not nearly what a physical therapist has upon graduation. And she's taking all sorts of continuing education, and one day will probably be working in the collegiate systems. She was smart to listen to me. But then a couple years later, I had another shadowing student in her junior year, and I gave her the same spiel. I told her about the debt. Not only the debt, she was going to be getting married in about a year. And I implored her to think this through. She didn't listen to me, and now she's in year 2 of physical therapy school, and she's going to have that massive debt that I warned her of. So what's the difference between a male therapist upon graduation and a female therapist upon graduation? Well, it's a matter of marriage and children. Most women do want to have children, correct? So let's picture this scenario where you just graduated. Let's say you're $150,000 in debt and you're 25 years old because they decide to steal an extra 3 years from you thanks to this doctorate program when it really only needs to be a bachelor's, at most 1 year of a master's. So instead of being in your early 20s upon graduation, you're in your mid-20s upon graduation. And let's say you're considering marriage with someone. Now, like it or not, woke or not, women have a biological ticking clock. Sorry you don't like the laws of nature, but the laws of nature are what they are. So why does this matter? Because if you have a child and say you even have the debt halfway paid through, you're still going to have to pay it back. So that's going to give you one of two options. Unless you happen to have a husband who's making $150 to $200 a year and can cover it for you, you're going to have to work full time and raise the kid. Now, I knew one lady who did this for 2 years. But first of all, her physical therapy doctorate program was structured a little differently. I believe she actually started first year during her senior year, and she managed to get out in something like 5.5 or 6 years at the most. And she did a very good job managing her money and crushed that debt. But she was working full-time anyway once she had her first child, and this was a fully competent person. She was the director of the clinic that I was travel contracting at. I stayed there for a year, got to know her very well. She's one of these people who's good at everything that she touches, but she was exhausted from the endeavor of raising a child and working full time. She was averaging somewhere around about 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night. And luckily, her debt was reduced to either nothing or very close to it by the time she had her first child. But first of all, most of you aren't going to be that fortunate. You're probably still going to have a tremendous amount of debt when the day comes that you decide you want a child. And then you're going to have one of two choices. You're not going to be putting money towards that debt once you have a child if you're working full time, because you're going to be putting all that extra money into daycare, because daycare is not cheap. Or you might have a family member that can watch your kids during the day while you work full time and try to be a mother. And your life's going to be one of utter exhaustion. And it's not going to be utter exhaustion just for a year. It's going to be that way for years. Now, I've seen some of the women decide that they're going to drop back to part-time. And do you think this doesn't cause conflict with your husband? I knew a couple whose wife did this after having their child. He had graduated his college debt-free, but now she wants to work part-time, and he still has about $100,000 in debt for the family, which is just as much on him now as it is on her. Do you know what most couples fight about in marriage? It's usually financial arguments. And it was already happening in this couple because he was telling her that you need to keep working full time until you pay this debt off. But now that she's accumulated all this debt, is now showing the signs of exhaustion from being a mother and working full time. She doesn't want to. So that's something you better very carefully consider, ladies, before you apply to physical therapy school. Because a simple fact, whether you like it or not, your DNA is going to make it tougher for you to have this debt than it is for the male. I mean, I know you want to be empowered, you want that doctorate. Yep, I get it. But sometimes you have to be strategically smart. And going to PT school with this debt that's going to be upon you when you graduate, it's not strategically smart for anyone, even more so if you're female. I hate to tell you, a lot of guys would be hesitant to marry someone if they were bringing in 100 to 150K debt. I mean, I always say, I'm sorry that the APTA pushed this and did this to you, but it's very much my contention that no one should apply to PT school until they revise what PT school actually is. If you're going to have a doctorate, it should be a specialty doctorate. It should not have been made just for entry-level practice. But that's what they did, and if they're going to insist this is the sort of debt that you're going to have upon graduation, you flat out just shouldn't apply. There's other options that you can do. If you're going to go to school that long, you might as well become a chiropractor for one. You can set up your own clinic. They have a huge lobby. A lot of chiropractors make the same as a physical therapist, but the ones that own their own shop, and I know some, and they're practicing perfectly ethically, and they're making about double what a PT does. You could go to PA school, and you could specialize in orthopedics. And yes, you're going to get in a lot of debt in PA school too, but there's a lot of opportunity there, especially for the ortho PAs. I've heard of many of them making over $100,000 a year. I know one guy whose specialization was in dermatology, and he made about $160,000 a year. There are contracts for PAs that are paying even more than independent contracts for physical therapists. My point is, if you're going to get in a huge amount of debt, have something that pays that debt off quickly. And a lot of you will say, well, I could crush it in 5 years. I'll just wait until I'm 30 to get married. Again, good luck with that. For those of us who've been around, the dating pool gets shallower and shallower with time. You can call that statement misogynistic or whatnot. The fact is, it's true. You may be risking not getting the family you want because of that debt. I know a lady who independently contracts, also set up her own company. She's now 50 years old, no husband, no kids. And some people want that. I never wanted to get married and I never wanted children either. But most of you women do, if you're honest with yourselves. The point is, you want to put yourself in a position in life where you call the shots and have total control over your own life. And I can promise you, you can't do that if you have $150,000 in debt when you get married trying to raise children. You're going to be a slave to the healthcare system that you may find out you don't like as much as you thought you would when you were in PT school. And there's no escape when that monthly bill keeps coming. So it's just my tidbit. You can listen to me or not listen to me. The shadowing student I have who forewent PT school, she is very, very thankful that she did that. She didn't do it because I told her so. She went in and investigated for herself and decided that was the smart choice. As for the other one who didn't listen to me, I hope things go well for her. But she's now married and has already set herself up behind the power curve. There's other professions out there, ladies. Don't get involved in one that's going to financially knife you in the back.